Welcome back to Weeknight Mysteries podcast. My name is Eurus and I'm here with Rain. How are you, Rain?
I'm slowly waking up. It's morning here in Lithuania as we record and feeling completely okay. How are you?
Yeah, a little bit of a different timing here, but all good. I think in the morning it's actually easier to record for me. I feel a little bit more fresh.
Yeah. However, the rain makes you kind of feel doozy.
Yeah, we do have rain. It definitely feels like the end of summer here in Lithuania, the first day of fall, for sure.
So tell us, what are we going to talk about today?
We are going to be talking about the 70-year-old mystery.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Daniel Woods, a 12-year-old boy, was murdered back in 1954. It's been 70 years.
Okay, just to clarify very quickly.
Of course.
This case is still unsolved, right?
Yes.
Jeez.
It's unsolved and it has been unsolved for 70 years at this point. So I think it's even a high likelihood that the culprit may have already been deceased.
Most likely, yeah. Unfortunately.
Let's talk about Daniel Wood's story. So, in the summer of 1954, 12-year-old Daniel Woods was doing what most children his age were doing in July. He was enjoying the long-awaited summer break from school. Each morning that particular summer, Daniel would leave his South Gray home, which is located in Maine, the state of Maine, that he shared with his mother, father, and 3 other siblings, and then he went to find his friends so they could spend the days playing basketball, baseball, or fishing. Daniel was tall for his age. He weighed around 100 pounds, or he was basically one of the bigger boys in the neighborhood. He was basically the biggest 12-year-old boy in the neighborhood. And he apparently enjoyed this advantage when he was playing basketball. Obviously, that helps when you're the tallest and the biggest boy. At the end of July in 1954, most of his friends were already dreading August because the new school year would start. Obviously, we've all been there. You hate it when the summer is basically over.
Of course, as a kid, you definitely just want to hang out all summer long while the sun is still out. Just go do basketball and outdoor activities.
Exactly right. So Daniel was eagerly awaiting the new month because his father had promised him that he would be able to get a job as soon as the school year started, and the job would be that he would be picking up beans on a local farm, which would earn him some much appreciated spending money. And this immediately made me think that, man, this kid, Daniel Wood, he would have become some sort of an entrepreneur potentially.
Yeah.
Right? Who's excited to get a job at 12?
Who's excited? A 12-year-old kid was excited to go back to school and then start a part-time job? Definitely wasn't me when I was 12.
No. Definitely not me either. So that's why I feel so bad about Daniel's cases, because I feel like Daniel was supposed to do great things.
That's true.
So on the morning on July 22nd, so this is literally the middle of summer in 54, a friend of his called called his family home. And he told Daniel to grab his fishing pole and then join the friend group at the local pond to go fishing. So Daniel's mother, preoccupied with the younger children, said goodbye to him after he explained his plans to her. He told his mother that he was going to first stop by his friend's home, a short distance away. The door closed behind him, and this would be the last time Daniel's mother would ever see her son alive. But this wouldn't be the last time she ever heard from him, because this is where the first strange and kind of unexplained portion of the story begins. Because a short time after Daniel left his home, a phone call came into the Wood home from a corner store about 3.5 miles away. And Daniel was on the other line, which was very strange to his mother because he hadn't been gone long enough to have traveled there on foot, 3.5 miles away. I mean, that would take you at least, like an hour to walk?
Yeah, that's true. However, I do have one question.
Yeah.
The friend who picked up Daniel, I'm assuming he's around his age, right?
No one picked him up. All good. Bless you.
Sorry, and thank you.
No one picked him up. He just told his mother that he will be going to a friend's house first.
Oh, but this friend,
Yeah.
it's around his age, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just pointing it out that this friend wasn't an adult who would help him go to that far.
No.
Okay.
So this is where the strangeness begins, because I assume he called like 15-20 minutes after he already left the house, and he called from a corner store which is 3.5 miles away, which is kind of strange, almost indicating that someone picked him up, someone with a car picked him up.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, and drove him to the corner store. So Daniel called his mother through like the corner store's phone in order to explain that he had just been offered a job with a door-to-door salesman where he would be making house calls for about 50 cents per hour. So his mother was actually proud of her son for this entrepreneurial drive. So Daniel's mother agreed, and after he promised that he would be back home before dark, basically just let him proceed with that job. So now the story kind of shifted because now Daniel all of a sudden doesn't have those plans to go fishing with his friends, and now he has a new plan to go door to door with this door-to-door salesman and just help him out for 50 cents per hour. I don't understand how this all escalated so quickly.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna point out. I'm just curious on whoever drove them, maybe him, Daniel and his friend, to the corner store.
I assumed that it was only Daniel who was driven there.
Oh.
And I assumed that as Daniel left his house, someone, maybe a door-to-door
Waiting for him?
salesman, had a conversation with him and then offered him a job. And then Daniel was like, oh my God, I just got a job early. Because, he was excited to start working.
He was a young kid,
So
excited about life.
Yeah, so basically the door-to-door salesman, who's, in my opinion, probably the culprit as well, dropped him off at the corner store and told him to call his mom. But the strange thing about, maybe this is just 1954, because it seems like the mother's reaction was also kind of strange, that it's okay, that this, he's just gonna be going door to door with a strange salesman guy. And also this was 54. This was, I think, before all of the stories had came out of kids getting kidnapped. So I think maybe parents were also more relaxed back in the day.
Yeah, that's true. And I kind of understand his mom.
Yeah.
Mainly because, as what we read, Daniel was a very entrepreneurial kid.
Yeah.
He had plans to earn a little bit of money here and there. And maybe that's why when his mom found out that he got a job, even if it's like 50 cents per hour, she was very happy for him, I bet.
50 cents was a lot more back in the day. That's like a few dollars at least, right?
Oh, nice.
So he was gonna like get the real wage.
Okay.
54.
Now it's weird for me.
Why?
Because if it's a real wage,
No, it's not a huge wage.
like a kiddie wage maybe.
Yeah, like not necessarily a big paycheck, but it's not just gonna be like $10 at the end of the day in terms of our modern day money. Back in the day, that's like a good $50 day or something, I assume. It depends on how many hours he would work, because he did promise his mother that he would be back before dark. So maybe the arrangement was that he would only be working for a few hours max.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't that much money. maybe.
Do you know at which hour he called?
No,
What part of the day?
nah. I'm just assuming it's like around
Morning
lunchtime, morning time, lunchtime, something
Yeah.
like that.
So he would have had kind of like a full day's work,
or like a half a day, you know,
and then head back.
and then he would go back.
But he never did.
He never did, because when dinner time arrived and Daniel was still not back home, his parents began to grow worried. They quickly contacted all of Daniel's friends and family members, and no one had claimed to have seen him that day. He didn't show up for fishing with his friends either, and extended family members claimed that they had not seen him come around as well. The Wood family would quickly report their son as missing. When officers arrived to search for Daniel, one of the first people they spoke to was a woman named Edra Wilkinson, who was the owner of the corner store where Daniel had placed that phone call to his mother. However, they didn't seem to get much information from Edra, other than that she claimed she had seen the boy in her store that day, and she watched him leave and run up the street. When Edra confirmed the time that Daniel was in her store, Daniel's father felt a sense of remorse because he had been merely 200 feet away from that particular corner store at that same time because he was filling air into his tires. He stated that he hadn't seen his son, but believed that his son may have seen him, saying, "I'm sure he must have spotted my car. He might have thought I would let him go. I wouldn't let him go, sorry."
Oh.
So basically, the father was at
Yeah.
in close proximity to the corner store, and he thinks that Daniel seen him, but Daniel didn't want to go talk to him because Daniel's father said that, maybe he was afraid that I wouldn't let him go.
Yeah. Wait, 1 second. Do you think Edra is a sketchy person, the
No.
owner of the corner store?
Definitely didn't seem like she's sketchy.
Yeah. I have the same reaction. However, we know that Daniel went into that corner store all alone. So whoever offered him the job, said you could call your mom?
From a little bit further away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. So that means that the culprit did not enter the store with Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe they did that to not get recognized.
That's true, which makes them extra sketchy.
Yeah, really strange.
Like it was already kind of planned.
Yeah. And I think some people listening to our podcast might start suspecting Daniel's father of some foul play
Oh yeah, exactly. It was around the area.
because he was around the area. He said that, but as I understand the story, Daniel's father is not involved here because of another sighting that was made of Daniel. And I think that maybe proves that Daniel's father was innocent. I think they ruled him out either if they ever investigated him. So what I'm going to be talking about is a different sighting. So 5 days into the search, police have spoken to a handful of witnesses. Some of them seemed credible and some were not. A man in Worcester claimed to have seen Daniel on the 22nd, the same day when he went missing. But it ended up being a case of mistaken identity. So apparently this man had seen some other child. However, a schoolmate named Donna Abrelli, so Donna Abrelli is basically another, I would assume, 12-year-old girl who went to school with Daniel. So she claimed that she had seen Daniel on the afternoon on the day that he disappeared. And in fact, she even spoke to him. Donna stated that she had seen Daniel near the Dry Mills School, which is basically a school in the general area of that town, and that he had been in a maroon-colored sedan, so red-colored sedan, that was occupied by Daniel, an unknown man, an unknown woman, and 2 children that she had never seen before. She claimed that this man had a dark complexion and white hair, but she hadn't known him, and he had stopped the car so he could look at a map. Daniel had shouted hello to Donna, and afterwards the car left towards Little Sebago Lake on Poland Springs Road. As the car left, Donna had noticed the car plates were yellow and not Maine plates. So first of all, I want to say Donna made amazing observations.
Jeez, for a 12-year-old
For
kid?
a 12-year-old, yeah,
Wow.
she has great recollection of what happened. And let's break this down. So basically, Donna spotted Daniel in a car with 2 other children and 2 adults, a woman and a man. So apparently the man is driving this maroon colored sedan vehicle, and then he had stopped because he was looking at the map. So to me, this tells me that this is a person who's not from town, an out of towner. On top of that, the license plates were yellow.
No. Also, let's not forget the fact that this person, the man, was tanned. So somewhere from the south.
Dark complexion. I don't know if it's tanned. Maybe it's like, dark complexion being like the
Black
natural.
person?
Yeah, not necessarily a black person. It could be like anyone. Maybe not necessarily white. I don't
Asian
know what.
or something.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Just
But-
dark complexion.
But then again, Donna, a very observant 12-year-old, would have mentioned that.
Dark complexion. I think it could. Yeah, I think what you're saying is could be right. It could be like maybe a white man with a tan, or maybe
And
I
the
could.
white hair.
Yeah, well, not every white person is just completely white. So maybe it's just a
So I was already thinking someone from Florida or something.
from Florida that made
Somewhere
their way
where the
to,
sun shines. Not from Maine completely.
Not from me. Yeah, I mean it was the summertime, so I think you could get tanned even in
Maine?
in the northeast. You could still get tanned.
But license plates were yellow though.
License plates were yellow, so that's either I've seen someone mention that I think New York license plates were yellow, but I could be wrong here. Also in Canada, in the state directly north from Maine, I can't remember what it's called, but I think the license plate could be yellow there also. And just the fact that this man was looking at the map, I'm kind of suspecting that this is a out of towner. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think about 3 other children? And
Sorry,
one
one
woman?
second. I was Googling like which state in the US have yellow license plate. And actually which year are we talking about?
54.
Oh, 54.
So this is like 70 years ago.
That's true, because I read somewhere here that from 1963 to 1969, California plates were yellow.
From when?
1963, so it's a little bit.
It's not that
Yeah, and also
correct.
New Mexico. Sorry, going back. Was doing a little bit of research on the side.
I think all we can say is that it's not Maine license plates.
Yeah.
So what do you think is happening here? Do you think that the man is the same man who offered the fake door-to-door job?
Of course.
So do you think, but who are the other children?
No, you meant the woman.
And the other 2 children? There's a man, a woman, and 2 other children in the car.
Maybe some other victims, but then there were no other reported missing children back then.
No, and I think if they were victims, at least local victims, victim kids, we would know about them. I think.
Yeah, that's true.
I think if there were more like victims in the general area, we'd know about them.
Yeah.
So who are the other 2 children? I'm also thinking, is there a possibility that maybe this is a family that's completely unrelated to Daniel's murderer, meaning that maybe this door-to-door salesman, the phony person, offered him a job, and he said, meet me at this little town right next to the town that he was living at, And then maybe Daniel was just hitchhiking, and maybe this was just a random out of town family who were checking how to get Daniel to the place that he asked them to get them to. It's still strange because
But-
I don't know how to explain the man, the woman, and two other children.
Did they ever come forward?
No.
Though? I don't know. That makes me feel a little bit weird that they did not come forward. Completely innocent family.
That is true. Why did they not come forward?
Sure, they could have been in a different state by then, but they probably
Maybe
heard
they never,
about it.
or maybe not.
Newspaper?
Yeah, but
That's true.
maybe you don't read that much, and maybe this was just in local newspapers. Maybe if they were from New York or from Canada, maybe they didn't even.
Canada.
Yeah, from Canada. Maybe they didn't even know about this case.
That's true.
Maybe no one ever asked them to identify themselves.
That's true. And from the looks of it, Daniel doesn't seem to be in any sort of danger.
Or
back
he
then.
doesn't feel danger.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
was happy.
He just said hello to the schoolmate. A handful of witnesses came forward with very strange but interesting sightings of Daniel as well. They claimed that a boy matching Daniel's description had knocked on their doors on the afternoon of July 27th, the 5 days after he had been reported missing, attempting to sell needle sets. Another woman in Connecticut stated that she had a boy knock on her door that matched Daniel's description, and when she had asked the child about himself, he claimed that he was from New York. But this was confusing to the woman, as the child had no hint of the New York accent. Despite these out-of-state sightings, the police wanted to search much closer to the family home for some reason. So I'm thinking, are they suspecting Daniel's parents? Why are they searching close to home when they have sightings coming out of other states? Nevertheless, literally at the home of Daniel and his family, they started searching. Authorities not only searched the interior of the house, but also the woods surrounding it, where they had found what looked to be some blood-stained towels in the woods behind the house. They had also seized a dress that had been turned over by Daniel's mother, which investigators believed had traces of blood. Nearby ponds were also drained and searched, but there was no signs of Daniel.
Okay, when you said earlier that this case has a lot of twists and turns, I kind of was like, okay. I was so casual about it, but now I believe you completely. It's going crazy.
It's insane. So, and the strangest thing about these blood-stained towels behind the family house, this was never explained anywhere.
Is there a possibility that it could have been, I don't know, fish, meat? Was it ever tested it was human blood?
I don't have this information.
Yeah, because on the dress, could it potentially be the mother cleaning out fish or something?
I mean, I don't
It's
know.
a possibility, but
I
it's
think
still,
it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I think it's a possibility, but I think that we don't know if any testing has been done on those things. But it's just strange because blood-stained towels in the woods behind the house. Even if you were, how would something like that end up behind the house?
A hunting game?
Yeah, but you just leave it there?
Of course not. I'm assuming it was washed, but there's still a little bit of stain.
No, it's just blood-stained towels just laying down behind the house in the woods.
Well, that's just crazy.
All right. It's bizarre, and this definitely was never fully explained. And I'm not saying anything about the family here, but it was just a strange thing that was never explained. So while The family waited for news of Daniel's whereabouts. A strange phone call came into the home, which Daniel's mother had answered. Okay. So a phone call comes into the house. I think you should listen to this one. There was an agitated sounding woman on the other end of the phone call who had a thick accent that Daniel's mother could not identify. This woman claimed that her last name was Goodson or Gitson, but Daniel's mother was unable to be sure which name it was due to the heavy accent. The woman claimed that she knew information about Daniel and that he was with a man she was acquainted with from Birmingham, Alabama. She said that at the time of Daniel's disappearance, this man had been in Maine. She also claimed that the man had a farm in Alabama where he boarded children, and he was known to treat these children cruelly. She went on to say that the man drove a maroon-colored sedan as well. With newfound hopes of finding her son, Daniel's mother quickly called the police with this information. Sadly, however, police were quick to determine that this call was most likely a hoax, and they were not able to ever identify the man nor the farm he was claimed to own.
That's just cruel if it was a hoax.
Yeah, but what do we think about this particular clue? So basically, I think this woman from, I guess, Alabama or something like that claims that maybe the man who, Daniel was last seen with in the car maybe was the man from Alabama.
The salesman, not the
Yeah.
family, right?
Yeah, I wonder if Alabama's license plates were yellow back in the 50s. Maybe you could quickly check Alabama license plates 50s.
Okay, embossed yellow serial on black plate.
What?
So I googled Alabama license plate color in 1950s. And it says here it's supposed to be black, but the writings are yellow.
Oh, so it's like black and yellow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
1 second, let me check Maine then. And Maine is white background and black writings.
So do you think a 12-year-old kid could somehow just see Alabama license plates and think, oh man, that's yellow?
No?
No?
Oh yeah, that's true. But then again, look. They have massive writings of the state. It's just odd. It could be easily identified which state it was in. But I guess a 12-year-old wouldn't really read into it. Just remember the color of the license plate.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. They wouldn't pay that much attention to the license plate because they wouldn't
To know the state.
They wouldn't assume that Daniel would be in trouble.
Yeah, however, if Daniel was screaming, then they probably would have paid more attention. Or Donna probably would have paid more attention.
Yeah, I agree. On July 31st, so this is already 9 days into the disappearance, two fishermen were walking along the banks of the Androscoggin River when they spotted a body in the rushing waters, and they immediately contacted authorities. Once on the scene, police pulled the nude body from the river at about 2:30 p.m. It appeared that the boy had been bound with a shoelace around his wrists and had been savagely beaten. The boy in the river was quickly identified as Daniel Wood.
Jeez.
Things began to come together when the autopsy was performed, and the determination was sinister. Daniel had not drowned in the river he was found in, but he had instead died of blunt force trauma to the head, possibly with a heavy piece of wood. this beating was so severe that one of his eyes had been almost forced out of his eye socket. The medical examiner had believed that Daniel was essayed due to the lack of clothes on his body, but this was never officially determined. They believed that after the beating, Daniel was pushed into the fast-moving river, and the body has remained there for between 5 to 3 days. The exact time of day of death was unable to be determined. So we don't know when exactly he had been murdered, but we know that he had been for at least a few days in the river before they found him. So he may have been murdered a few days after his disappearance or something like that, I assume. I assume that since he went missing on the 22nd and his remains were found on 31st, and since authorities said that he had been in the river for 3 to 5 days, I think that could mean that he was not murdered on the same day when he was kidnapped. I think he could have been murdered a few days into his kidnapping. That's what I'm logically trying to, conclude here.
Yeah, just one quick question. Do you know where that river flows?
No, not really.
Like which state? Is it still in Maine? Maybe close to their home? I'm just curious about it.
Man, that's a very good observation. That's a really good, question.
Because if it's really close to their family home, then yeah, the family is very suspicious. If it's around town, then we know he was in that town the day he disappeared. But if it's in another state, let me quickly Google once again. Go on.
Yeah, but you need to Google, what was the river called again? It was it's Androscoggin River. All right, so as you Google, I'm gonna tell you more information that we have. It was difficult to search the river without knowing the point of entry of Daniel's body, but police searched up and down the banks of the Androscoggin for miles in search for clues. They had found Daniel's socks, but that was the only physical evidence to turn up. They were not able to find any blood or signs of a crime seen along the banks, and the police determined that the killing most likely happened elsewhere, and Daniel's body had been transported to the river to be dumped. Despite their search, it appeared that some physical evidence had been missed by authorities because a handful of Daniel's clothing items had been discovered by citizens in already searched areas, and his pink horn-rimmed glasses had been found in a tree. A local farmer had found the handle of a sledgehammer 150 yards away from where Daniel's body had been pulled from the water, but sadly rains had come through the area in the time of the search for Daniel, and the authorities were unable to determine if any blood or hair had been on the handle. Okay.
Interesting. And on my end, I did find out that the river is in Maine. It is a river in the U.S. states of Maine and New Hampshire in New England. It spans 178 miles or 286 kilometers long from Maine, and the water empties into the Gulf of Maine on the Atlantic Ocean.
So I guess we don't really know where it flows from.
It flows from Maine to New Hampshire.
Okay, so it's not because I was thinking maybe it flows from Canada or something.
No, it's just within the state.
Okay.
Ish. Which, remember, you mentioned that there was some lady in Connecticut who claimed sighting of Daniel selling something.
Yeah, needle sets. Yeah.
So I don't think that actually was true, or it wasn't him.
Yeah, it probably wasn't him.
Yeah, because Connecticut is way down there. And if his body was found in the river, then he probably just stayed in the state.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. But let's talk about what they found. So let's look again, man. They found his socks. They found his socks, some other handful of clothing items, and his glasses had been found in a tree. And I think this is along the banks of the river. So they found his clothes and glasses in a tree. So glasses in a tree, I'm immediately thinking, is there a chance a bird took it from the scene? No, birds can't lift that heavy, right?
Glasses and clothes, right?
Clothes were like all over the place, as I understand, but the glasses were in a tree.
Just glasses.
Yeah.
Crows? Because glasses were shiny and crows are
Or a raccoon,
potentially.
right? Like some animal. So maybe the animal could transport the glasses to a tree. But what does this tell us? Does this tell us that the culprits made Daniel undress, or maybe they already undressed his dead body at the banks? But why would they undress the dead body at the banks? And the banks of the river?
Maybe they were trying to hide his identity, hoping that the body would be too bloated when it gets
Yeah, maybe to remove the clothes. Yeah, that's a good point. You think that's a possibility?
I'm thinking of two possibilities here. There was a possibility of an essay, right?
Essay, yeah, but it was never determined. But you could definitely lean towards that.
Yeah, it could be a possibility. Also, maybe they were trying their hardest, whoever the culprit was or were, to make the body unidentifiable.
Also, there was I believe, a sledgehammer. A local farmer found the handle of a sledgehammer. 150 yards away from where the body has been found. So in
Was there
close
any
proximity.
DNA?
No, because apparently there was rains and it wasn't determined.
Do you think that sledgehammer was used on Daniel?
So we don't have the actual top of the sledgehammer. We just have the handle.
The stick.
So it could be completely unrelated.
Yeah, it's a forest.
But do you think that someone transported Daniel's body as he was already dead to the banks of the river, removed his clothing, and then tossed the body into the river?
That could be a possibility, yeah.
Right?
Because bodies bloat in bodies of water.
Yeah. I think you still have to have some information about what happens to dead bodies in the river also.
That's true.
And it's a lot harder to know this info back in the day.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm thinking it could be someone who just wanted to get rid of the body as soon as possible. And if they did get rid of the body a few days into his disappearance, then that means that they must have kept Daniel in Maine, in that same general location. All right, they didn't move him out of state.
No, I don't think so. It's kind of...
Sorry.
So
No,
sorry.
it's okay, it's okay.
It's kind of... I don't know. I feel sad and angry at the same time because Daniel was just an innocent kid.
Just trying to make some money.
Yeah, trying to help out, just enjoying the summer. Had so much in store for him in life.
Yeah,
and
a lot
then,
of potential.
Like, what did they do to him? It's crazy.
Daniel's funeral had been scheduled for August 2nd. On the morning of the funeral, the Woods family had heard a knock on their front door. Expecting friends and family, they were surprised to see a police officer instead, with a note in hand. The Attorney General had ordered a second autopsy on Daniel's body, along with a handful of other tests they wanted to perform. These examinations were to be performed by an out-of-state pathologist, a doctor from Harvard Medical School. Amplifying their grief, the Woods family had to quickly cancel the funeral, knowing instead of resting peacefully in the ground that their son would again be lying on another autopsy table. That same night, as this happened, so I believe on August 2nd, a man was apprehended and taken into the Westport, Maine police station for questioning. This man was a 28-year-old who had been stopped by police for a traffic violation and stated that he had 4 young boys in his vehicle. The man said that he had picked up the boys from different locations in Portland and South Portland, which is a bigger city kind of close by. And when asked why exactly the man had random young boys in his car, he told authorities, "I just like to have boys ride around with me."
What?
Yeah, despite this unnerving statement and the fact that the man had the boys in his car, police did not feel like they had enough on the man and were forced to let him go. It appears that the man had never been charged in connection with Daniel's murder. This is so bizarre.
That is really odd.
Another crazy twist.
And did they interview the boys?
I don't know. I feel like there's some sort of a explanation to this that we're just missing. I didn't find this information. I have no idea what's happening there, but it's a very strange,
The guy's creepy.
super creepy. 28-year-old man with young boys from different locations, just driving around. Maybe this is different times, you know. I'm thinking 1954. You're just kind of driving around, you know what I mean. Parents are not that afraid, you know, for their kids, because these horror stories do not come up as often as they do right now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but I like driving around with
Young boys.
young boys?
No, that's foul play. Like,
That's
not foul, but
really
that's
bad.
That's terrible.
That's so offensive.
I don't know what's happening with this guy, but apparently we don't have any more information about this particular individual.
I mean, it's sad, and he could have been the culprit.
Of Daniel's murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what other stuff this guy did in his life, I wonder. Back in the 50s, driving around with young boys.
I mean, I hope the police actually took his name.
Or made a note of him.
Exactly. Because that is not a normal thing to do. Pick up random boys. Like you don't know them. Then just drive around with them.
That's not a normal thing to do, I agree. It's terrible. With very little to go on, police expanded their search into nearby areas, including Canada. In Canada, they discovered that on the same day as Daniel's discovery in the river, which was the 27th of July, another boy, Raymond Trudeau, had disappeared on the day of his birthday. It was supposed to be his birthday. On July 27th, Raymond had been anticipating his 6th birthday party, but instead of celebrating with friends and family, he had gone missing. Sadly, on the 31st of July, Raymond's body was discovered on the sidewalk in Montreal, a street beside a river, which is around 400 kilometers away from South Gray, where Daniel went missing from. Early that morning, a truck driver had spotted 2 cardboard boxes on the side of the road next to a pile of rotting vegetables and fruit. The truck driver had noticed newspaper sticking out of the boxes, and the newspaper had been covered in blood. Once the boxes were searched, Raymond's dismembered body was discovered, and he was quickly identified by picture comparison, and the fact that Raymond's red and blue striped sweater, confirmed by his father, was discovered in one of those boxes. Instead of celebrating his 6th birthday, his family would instead mourn him at the funeral. Raymond's murder was quickly solved. A man named Lucien Picard was charged with the murder of the young boy, and he was determined to be guilty due to the evidence he left behind. Inside of Lucien's home, police found a clipped newspaper advertisement, which was linked to the newspaper that had been wrapped around Raymond's body. The newspaper in the box had a hole from a cut-out advertisement, and the advertisement found in Lucien's home matched perfectly in the hole. Lucien claimed that he had lured Raymond off the street on July 27th and brought him back to his house. He stated that when Raymond began to scream, Lucien had strangled him. He also claimed that he had a severe drinking problem and that he could not remember all of the crime that took place. On top of this, Lucien's roommate was also charged with gross indecency involving minors. Lucien was hung for his crimes on February 11th of the following year. Many people believe that due to the close proximity of Maine to Canada, along with the fact that in 1954, Quebec, where Lucien lived, had yellow license plates, the same color as seen by Donna on the maroon sedan, that the two crimes could be linked. Many people had believed that Lucien could also be responsible for the murder of Daniel. However, this was never able to be determined, and since Lucien was now dead, they were unable to question him about Daniel's murder and whereabouts. So we have a very strange potential connection between Raymond Trudeau's and Daniel Wood's cases. Both boys were murdered. Raymond Trudeau seems to have been picked up by a man named Lucien Picard, who had a severe drinking problem, and brought back to home, where Lucien lived with a roommate. And I don't know what they were about to do to Raymond. I assume SA. But Raymond, I guess, panicked and started shouting, and Lucien strangled him. And then later on, discarded the body alongside the road, seemingly in Montreal, and he left clues that were linked to him. Like when they searched his home, they found that he had a cut-out advertisement from a newspaper, and the full newspaper was actually in a box with Raymond's body. So this guy...
Well, that's not very smart.
No, he was definitely not the mastermind here, but I'm thinking, I don't think we ever found out why exactly they investigated him. So I think something already led, something even before, this newspaper match led them to Lucien's home. Lucien may have been a known culprit in the area or something like that.
It could be him. He also mentioned something about yellow
license plates. Yeah, Montreal, Quebec, right? So they had the yellow license plates back in the 54. Now, I don't think we ever knew what vehicle Lucien was driving, but it could have been a rented car.
Could have,
from
Quebec,
yeah. And
however, sorry.
And the last thing I want to say is that it makes sense for me because Daniel disappears on the 22nd and Raymond disappears on the 27th. So it kind of adds up to me because, maybe this guy was a serial killer who first abducted Daniel and then later on went back to Canada and abducted Raymond.
So both boys disappeared on the same day?
No, not the same day.
Oh, okay.
Daniel disappears on the 22nd.
22nd?
His body is found on the 27th.
Okay, and then...
Raymond disappeared. No, sorry. Daniel's body is found on the 31st. Sorry.
Okay,
I know you're probably super confused right now.
No, it's all good.
Daniel disappears on the 22nd. Raymond disappears on the 27th.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? It's just a 5-day difference.
I don't know though, because Raymond's, the way Raymond's body was found is kind of, from a criminal mind perspective, it's kind of sloppy.
It's like right there in the open.
Yeah, it's like so obvious that it was Lucien.
And that he left so much incriminating
Exactly.
clues. So
but
it seems
for
like
Daniel,
for Daniel,
it's scary. You can't find anything else to point out someone.
that's such a good observation. Yeah, I never thought about it. Could Lucien be also Lucien's roommate? What's that all about?
No idea.
He was also charged. Lucien's roommate was charged,
So both of them were charged.
but for a different thing.
Oh my gosh, that's
Lucien's
crazy.
roommate was also charged with gross indecency involving minors.
Jeez, what's up with them?
So it could have been the roommate.
Could have, because I don't know. It seems for me that that was Lucien's first crime because of how sloppy it was.
He also says that he
Incriminating?
doesn't remember much of it because of the drinking problem.
Oh.
Maybe he was really drinking heavy that day.
Do you think there's a possibility that he was actually the culprit, but when he abducted Daniel, he was sober?
Yeah, that's a possibility in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Do you think that's happening?
Could be.
Could be, right?
Yeah.
In another strange twist, I think this is the last twist in the case. In 2003,
2003.
Yeah, 49 years later, the Woods family began to receive letters. So I assume this is maybe the siblings and extended family members that were still alive.
Sons, daughters.
Yeah. They started receiving strange letters complaining about the Maine police.
Oh.
The letters, which partially rhymed, like you write in rhymes.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. Were written by someone signing off as Ronald Ridge. Ronald claimed that as a child he was essayed by a man that had lived near the Woods family home along Route 100. He stated that he believed this man that essayed him was possibly involved in Daniel's murder, but it was unable to be determined who this man was or if he was still alive. However, due to the letters, police did briefly reopen Daniel's case again in 2003. What became of this reopened investigation is not known to the public. Daniel's siblings, remembered him fondly. His younger brother, who was only 3 at the time of Daniel's disappearance, remembers time when Daniel was working in the front yard. He would take breaks to make faces at his little brother in the window to make him laugh. Daniel's older sister Carol, who was 14 at the time of his disappearance, still had a note of her little brother that he gave to her asking if she knew where his favorite keychain was. She remembers how Daniel's disappearance destroyed her parents, and basically the family has been suffering ever since. So, just quickly going back to those 2003 letters, anything jumping out to you? Because you've been really making good new assessments, or new lines of thinking that I never thought about. So what do you think about those letters? Because I think, it's another twist that I guess could be linked to Daniel's case. A man living close to the family home allegedly essayed this man who claims to be Ronald Ridge, who writes in rhymes. And then he also is disappointed in local law enforcement. So it's a handful.
It's really creepy, but I don't think it's real. There's a possibility that it's not real, but there's also a possibility that this was not a victim. This could have been the murderer playing games.
The murderer.
Playing games.
Oh,
Mainly
my God.
because of the rhymes. It just creeps me out. It's
I just had chills, and you once again
because
provided
no
the
victim,
crazy.
no
Yeah,
victim of essay would ever write a letter with rhymes. As if they're
49
writing-
years later.
Exactly, as if they're writing a story.
Damn, this is so I just had chills because
Yeah, me too.
I never thought that this could be the perpetrator.
This could be just the culprit
Wow.
playing games. Honestly, it's just an opinion. I'm just completely assuming, but I don't think if I'm a victim of an essay, I would never ever write a story with a fake name and would rhyme. Because what happened to me is so bad.
And you would be very old at that point also.
Exactly.
49 years later, so and you would be a child, so you'd be like in your early 60s, you know, at that point in 2003 with a person in their 60s.
No, what is
Who
this?
be-
The Lorax? You know those childhood children's book that kind of rhymes.
Yeah. This is strange, but yeah, do you think this is the killer
Potentially.
taunting the family?
Potentially the killer was living close to the woods. They never managed to identify him, and maybe he was just playing
Oh
tricks.
man, that's definitely a crazy observation you made. This is why you're so great.
No, I'm just assuming all the time.
No, you're assuming, but then you're kind of bringing up things that I think I'm just dull because
No.
I feel like I just like read the notes and then I'm like lost in the sauce.
I mean, it might be completely untrue.
No, of course, but it's an interesting point of view. It's an interesting like way to think about this case. So in general, I would say that we have 4 suspects in Daniel's case. We have the unidentified man from Birmingham, Alabama, who allegedly had Daniel abducted, and Daniel was allegedly with him in Alabama. But then because Daniel ends up in the river,
It's a little too far.
it's too far to make these kind of,
Yeah.
or maybe the man from Alabama did not actually return to Alabama. Maybe he stayed in Maine during this time. I don't know what that lady who called in the tip, what she actually told police. It could be just a crazy Alabama lady, honestly. But,
yeah, and
but,
no names were given, right?
yeah, well, yeah, I don't think any names were given. I'm not sure. Then we have a 20-year-old man with 4 kids in the back seat. We also have Lucien Picard. We already talked about him.
Oh wait, I'm so sorry. That 20-year-old man?
28-year-old man.
28-year-old man. Oh, the young boys.
The young boys
Okay.
who got stopped.
Yes, I remember.
And then lastly, this letter situation in 2003. Whomever sent those letters.
I would vote for whoever sent those letters because in that
Really?
letter, as you mentioned, that they were also saying they were disappointed in the police. Like, what does that mean?
And also I would say if it was a hoax, I think it's a lot easier to make a hoax now than in 2003 because you had the internet in 2003, but would you really find Daniel's information in a 2003 internet? You could like find general info, but you can't find that much information back then because there not a lot of people were writing articles yet, So can you find the Daniel Wood's case? I mean, you could barely find any information now.
I haven't even heard about this case until
it's
you.
like the information even now is limited, so it must have been very limited back in 03. So in 03, I don't know if this person, then who is this person? Yeah, no, honestly, because if they didn't find this information in O3, they must be a local.
They must be.
They must be or like someone who lived there. Yeah, the more I think about those O3 letters, the creepier it starts to.
And then they also mentioned that they were SA'd by someone living close to the woods. So they know where they live.
Yeah.
The Woods family lived.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. So maybe it was someone who even knew the Woods family back in the day. Or have known about them.
Yeah. Like exactly where they live.
Yeah.
It's creepy
Man,
for me.
this is so bizarre. Okay, so Daniel Wood's case, as I've said, very unfortunate because I feel like Daniel himself seemed like such an entrepreneurial kid who was different from everyone else.
Yeah.
And seemed like he really wanted to do only like good productive things. So it's so sad because of what happened to him.
So it's saddening and it's, I don't know, I feel angry.
Yeah, me too,
whoever
actually.
did that.
Actually, me too. Me too. I always feel angry about the
cases that we
for the victims, but this one, for some reason especially, so I don't know. Seems like he was such a good kid.
With a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, he was nice to his siblings and everything. It's unfortunate. I wonder if we are gonna find more information, or I wonder if we're gonna hear something about his case. It's just so sad because it's been 70 years ago, and I'm not sure how they would ever solve it now.
Yeah, but we could only hope.
Yeah. Anyways, please guys, if you enjoyed or if you didn't enjoy, regardless, just if you want to tell us anything, just leave the note in the comment section. We will read them. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast.
See you very soon.
Yeah. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.